Get ready to haul some ass across that high E string with this awesome shred-tacular lick. What's up there, guys, and welcome to this week's installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here's your best buddy, Uncle Ben. On today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys one of my absolute favorite ultra high speed patterns for shredding across a single string. In this case, in the key of E major, using the E major scale across the high E string. Now you could do this with any other one string, major or minor scale or anything like this, just apply the same sequence to it. But in today's case, it's going to work in the key of Esus. But as always, before the education ensues, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. And as is tradition, you guys can find a complete tab for this week's lesson over on my Instagram page. Be sure to follow me over at Ben Eller Guitars. Find the tab for this week's lesson, learn how to play it, then upload a video of yourself shredding it with vigor, along with the hashtag Weekend Wankshop. Now myself, I've always really valued learning one-string scale patterns. They're really great just to shred across in a linear fashion like that, or do the old Eddie Van Halen tremolo picking thing. But I've also found that they're really useful for linking together maybe a big scale pattern, here to a big old scale pattern here. A lot of times we end up with these kind of like islands of information, separated across the board by great links and not knowing how to connect them. But if you know how to play some one-string scale patterns, you can use these to make a bridge for those islands. So first things first, let's talk about the particular scale pattern I am using here. Starting off with open, then 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 12. Now when you reach that 12, that's of course the same thing as the first note of the scale. The open, and 12, that's the same stuff. They're both E notes. And likewise, you remember how we used the 2 and the 4? We're also going to use their little octave companions up here as well, which we can find at fret 14 and 16. Now you could of course trace all these other notes an octave up on the high end of the board here too, but for this particular lick, we're going to end up using 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12, 14, and 16. Another cool thing about that is you could take that series of fret numbers we just talked about and move it to another string to produce that major scale. So in other words, if you played this on G, and you played 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12, you'd have the G scale in that case, which you could use in the key of G major. I guess the way I would describe the way I'm thinking about this particular lick is thinking about that big single string major scale pattern we just talked about in 3-note at a time little bites. And every one of those little 3-note chunks right here is going to get this particular phrase. And then move on to the next chunk, apply the phrase, move on to the next chunk, and so on. This particular phrase, this is how it works. This is a really popular phrase used by shredders like Paul Gilbert and that Yngwie Malmsteen fellow from Sweden. This is a really cool one to use here. It's pretty easy to play and easy to get fast. What you're going to do is to play the lowest note, the highest note, the middle note, and then the lowest note. So what we've done here is to take 3 notes and turn them into 4. That makes an even 16th note phrase that fits over the course of one beat very nicely too. Now what I'm doing to start this off is I'm beginning with the 12th fret here on the high E, the 16, the 14, and then the 12. That's our first chunk of notes. Next phrase is going to start off on the 11. We're going to play 11, 14, 12, 11. Then we're going down to the next note in the scale here, the 9 here. So I'm going to play 9, 12, 11, 9. Then I'm going to jump down here to the 7th position. I'm going to use 7, 11, 9, 7. Then the 5th position, this is going to give me 5, 9, 7, 5. Next is going to be the 4th here. We're going to play 4, 7, 5, 4. Then the 2, we're going to play 2, 5, 4, 2, and then lastly the open high E, the root note of the scale, and maybe even a jolly old E major chord here. Let's do it again here kind of slowly, and I'm going to call it the first fret number in each of these chunks. So starting with 12, 11, 9, 7, 5, 4, 2, open. So this is going to be straight up alternate pick starting with a downstroke. So every one of these little chunks is going to go down, up, the entire way through. Be sure to try to use, small little pick strokes here, staying close to the string as much as you can. And another thing I'll add too is that you can add in a little bit of palm muting on there on the high E string for a little bit more aggressive sound, of the pick hitting the string, as well as just a little bit more control, which I really like too. Because the thing is whenever you're not palm muting and you're playing fast and playing hard, that string is like bouncing around a lot. And you're essentially trying to hit this, moving target with your pick over and over accurately. And if you add a little bit of palm muting onto it, the string doesn't bounce around nearly as much, so your picking can actually be a little bit more accurate whenever you're trying to repeatedly hit it over and over. If it's moving less, it's going to be an easier target. I'll never do the palm muting thing if I'm playing it slowly, because there's no sustain, and that sounds absolutely terrible. A lot of times people practice this stuff and they think they're doing it wrong, because they'll be playing the lick slow with the palm muting on there, and it'll sound awful. Like I would never use that in a tune or anything. There's just zero sustain. But at really high speeds, you don't notice it because the notes are going by so quickly anyway. So you get all that great attack off the pick. It's a little bit easier to hit the string over and over. It's just kind of a win-win situation. Another thing I'll recommend is keeping your grip on the back of the neck with your thumb extremely loose. If you start locking down with kind of a death grip on the back of the neck like that, trying to scoot that down the neck is going to be really miserable. Or if you're trying to make jumps happen like this, that's just not going to work accurately. I keep my thumb on the back of the neck super loose during licks like this where I'm changing positions a lot. So just be sure to stay really relaxed with that thumb. And like I said, those one-string scale patterns like that I've always found really useful to use for, one-string picking licks like that, as well as like, tapping ideas and stuff like that. I recommend learning at least a one-string major scale and a one-string minor scale. And maybe even like a pentatonic or something. And you can get a lot of mileage out of those right there. Thanks again so much for watching. You guys be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more new lessons every single dang week. You guys can follow my Facebook fan page over at facebook.com/UncleBenEller. You guys can find me on Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars. And if you're interested in booking some one-on-one Skype lessons with me, be sure to drop me an email, benellerguitars@gmail.com. I'll hit you up as soon as I can. Hopefully you guys dug that and learned some new things. Be sure to tag me on Instagram with your favorite one-string licks of doom. In the meantime, I will be seeing you guys next week. Cheers, everybody.